Pull a single strand of it between your fingers, and it feels like stiff wire that somebody dressed up as hair. Coarse, springy. It fights back when you try to bend it. You have almost certainly touched this material already, under a doormat by your front door, packed inside an old mattress, wound around the roots of a plant you carried home from a garden center, and you have almost certainly never once wondered where it came from. It comes from the part of the coconut that nobody wants. Every year, the world grows a staggering number of coconuts. The careful estimates start somewhere north of 50 billion and only climb from there. For every one of them that becomes water or milk or the white flesh in a bag on a supermarket shelf, about a third of the whole fruit by weight is the rough brown husk wrapped around the shell. More than 50 million tons of that husk pile up every single year, and most of it is treated as garbage. By some counts, more than 85% of the world's coconut husk is dumped in heaps, left to rot, or set on fire. Mountains of it. Smoke you can smell from the next village over. Yet that same discarded husk is holding up a mattress somebody is sleeping on tonight. And it is the reason a tomato plant 3,000 miles away is standing upright in its pot. To understand how a piece of trash ends up doing all of that, you have to get close enough to see what the husk is actually made of. Cut a coconut in half the long way, and you find 4 layers stacked like a story. On the outside, a thin, waxy skin. Under it, the thick, fibrous middle. This is the husk, and it is the whole reason we are here. Below that, the hard, woody shell. And in the center, the part everyone actually buys, the water and the white meat. That fibrous middle layer is not one thing. It is 2. Run your hand through it and you feel long, wiry strands. That is coir, the fiber. Packed between those strands is a soft brown crumble, almost like damp coffee grounds. That is coir pith, sometimes called coco peat. Hold the fiber up to the light, and it looks almost like straw, but it behaves nothing like straw. It is loaded with a natural compound called lignin, the same stuff that makes wood stiff. And that single fact is why coir survives where other natural fibers quietly fall apart. Soak cotton in seawater for a season and it rots. Coir shrugs it off. It is one of the only natural fibers on Earth that can sit in salt water for months and come out stronger for it. Which is exactly what happens to it next, and it is not a gentle process. Before any of it becomes anything, you have to reckon with the sheer size of the pile. Picture the coconut groves of southern India and Sri Lanka, of the Philippines and Indonesia, running mile after mile down warm coastlines. When the nuts come down, the husks come off and they gather in hills. For a long time, this was simply a problem. Husk does not compost quickly on its own. That same rot-resistant lignin that makes coir so tough also means a loose husk can sit in the open for years. So it got burned, and the burning fouled the air. Or it got tipped into rivers and backwaters, where it soured the water and choked the fish. And the strange part is that this so-called waste was once so valuable that people called it a kind of gold, and whole coastal economies were built on turning it into thread. The knowledge to do that never disappeared. It just got buried under the sheer scale of the modern harvest. And it starts with water. Walk out to the still, brackish lagoons along the Kerala coast, and you will see dark shapes bundled just under the surface, weighed down with nets and stones. Those are coconut husks, and they are being drowned on purpose. The process is called retting, and it is patient work in the most literal sense. The husks are held under the still water for months, for the finer, paler fiber, anywhere from 6 to 10 months at a stretch. Down in that warm, oxygen-starved water, colonies of microbes go to work, slowly eating away the soft pulp that glues the fibers together. Nobody is rushing them. You cannot rush them. You simply wait while the water does what no machine has fully managed to replace. It is beautiful to look at and hard to be near. The retting water turns dark and heavy, thick with sulfur, and the smell carries. This is one of the honest costs of the old way, and we will come back to it. But first, once the microbes have finished, the husk has to be torn open and its fiber pulled free. A retted husk comes out of the water soft and yielding, and now the fiber has to be separated from the pith. In the oldest version of this work, someone lays the husk on a stone and beats it with a wooden mallet, again and again, until the soft brown crumble falls away, and only the long, wiry strands are left in the hand. In the mechanized version, a spinning drum studded with steel teeth does the same job in seconds, throwing the pith out one side and the clean fiber out the other. Then the fiber is spun into yarn, and this is where you meet the people who actually hold this industry up. Across Kerala alone, more than 700,000 workers make their living from coir. And the great majority of them are women. Watch a spinner's hands, and you understand why the work is so hard to automate. She feeds a steady rope of loose fiber with one hand, while the other keeps the twist even. And a thread of coir grows out of the tangle at a pace that looks impossible, until you realize she has done it every day for 30 years. That thread is the beginning of everything the husk is about to become. But not every husk becomes the same thing, and the split happens right at the start. There are two families of coir, and a husk is sorted into one or the other before it is ever soaked. It comes down to ripeness. Take the husk from a young, green coconut and you get white coir, paler, softer, more flexible. The fiber that gets the long retting and gets spun into fine yarn, mats, and rope. Take the husk from a fully mature brown coconut and you get brown coir, darker, thicker, far stiffer. The fiber that goes into mattresses, brushes, and heavy industrial padding. The young husk bends. The old husk holds its shape. One is built to be woven, the other is built to spring back. Once the fiber is sorted, spun, and baled, it splits into 3 great streams heading out into the world, and the first one leads somewhere you would never guess a piece of trash could go. Follow the white coir first, because it is the oldest path. Spun coir yarn is woven into the doormat under your feet, the coarse matting rolled out in hallways, the bristles of the stiff brush that scrubs a deck. Its stiffness, which makes it uncomfortable to sit on, is exactly what makes it perfect underfoot. It scrapes mud off a boot and springs back for the next one. And remember the salt water. Because coir barely cares about the sea, it has been twisted into marine rope for centuries, the kind that holds fishing boats to their moorings through weather that would rot an ordinary line. A single grove's worth of discarded husk can become miles of it. This is the stream people have known about for generations. The second stream is younger, and it is the one that touches you at your most defenseless, while you are asleep. Take the stiff brown coir, lay it out in a thick, even sheet, and spray it with a fine mist of natural rubber latex. The latex dries and locks every fiber to its neighbors, and what was a loose brown mat becomes a firm, breathable slab that holds its shape under weight. This is rubberized coir, and it is the hidden spine inside a huge number of the world's mattresses and sofa cushions. You have felt it without knowing. That layer of firm, springy support under the softer top of a mattress is very often coir, and a well-made rubberized coir can hold up for 10 to 15 years without sagging into a hollow. Car makers use the same material to pad seats precisely because it breathes in summer heat and refuses to go flat. So the husk that was burned as garbage is now the thing carrying your weight 8 hours a night. And the third stream is stranger still, because it takes the part we have been throwing away this whole time, not the fiber, but the crumbly brown pith left over from every step, and turns it into something the modern world is suddenly desperate for. Go back to that soft brown crumble, the coir pith, the coco peat. For most of this industry's history, it was the true waste, the leftover after the good fiber was pulled out, piled up, and ignored. Then growers discovered what it does with water. Coir pith holds moisture like a sponge and releases it slowly. It drains without turning to mud, and it sits at a gentle pH of around 5.5 to 6.5, which happens to be exactly what most plants want. Compressed into hard bricks, it ships light and dry across the world, and one splash of water swells it back into a fluffy, growing medium. In greenhouses in the Netherlands and in California, tomatoes and roses now stand in pure coco peat instead of soil, a clean, renewable stand-in for peat moss, which takes wild bogs thousands of years to make. The same fiber, woven into open netting, gets rolled across raw hillsides and riverbanks to stop them washing away, holding the ground long enough for real roots to take over before the net quietly rots into the earth. That is 3 separate industries, all standing on a single thrown-away husk. But an honest account of this cannot stop at the gleaming end products, because the road to them runs through some genuinely hard places. This is the part that deserves to be said plainly. That long, patient retting in the lagoons leaves the water dark and sour with sulfur, and where it is done carelessly, it damages the very backwaters the coastal villages depend on. The industry knows this, and cleaner methods exist, but they are not yet everywhere. Then there are the hands doing the work. Coir spinning and weaving is built largely on women's labor, and the pay is thin, often somewhere between 250 and about 380 rupees for a day of hard, dusty work, with fewer than 20 working days in many months. When machines come in to speed things up, they tend to take over the better-paid jobs first, and the older skills quietly lose their value. The younger generation, watching all this, is walking away from the trade. None of that cancels out what the husk becomes. But you deserve to know that the doormat and the mattress and the potting brick carry a real human story, and it is not a spotless one. Sitting with that discomfort is the honest price of the thing, and it sets up the turn that changes how the whole pile looks. For 100 years, the husk was a disposal problem, something to be gotten rid of. Look at it now, though, with the world in the state it is in. We are running out of the peat bogs we used to dig up for potting soil, and every ton of coir pith is a ton of bog left in the ground. We are choking on synthetic fibers that never break down, and coir is a natural one that eventually returns to the earth.
The very toughness that made the husk so annoying to get rid of, that stubborn, rot-resistant lignin, is exactly why it makes rope that lasts, and mattresses that hold, and netting that guards a hillside for a season and then vanishes. The waste turned out to be the answer to problems the world did not even have when people first started throwing it away. So the pile on the coastline was a warehouse all along. We had simply not learned to read it yet. The next time you wipe your feet on a doormat, or press a hand into a mattress in a showroom, or lift a dry brown brick of potting mix off a shelf, you will know that you are holding the part of the coconut the world tried hardest to throw away. Somewhere along a warm coastline, a woman spun that fiber out of a tangle by hand, out of a husk that sat drowned in a lagoon for the better part of a year. That distance between how ordinary the finished thing looks and everything it quietly took to make it is the whole reason we sit down and tell these stories, one at a time. If this one showed you something you had never noticed in an object you have touched 100 times, stay with us, because there is a whole world of ordinary things with histories exactly this strange, and we are working our way through them. We'll be here, same as always, telling the stories the land remembers.